Welcome back, everybody. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're taking a deep dive into the U.S. housing market today. It's a topic that's on everyone's mind these days, and with good reason. I mean, we're seeing record low sales, record high prices, and just a whole lot of uncertainty.
It really is a fascinating and frankly unusual situation. There are a lot of factors all coming together right now, creating this, very unique market that we're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. And right off the bat, the 2024 existing home sales numbers, I mean, they're pretty startling. A 29-year low, lowest since 1995. You would think that would mean lower prices, but
Yeah, you'd think.
it's not the case at all.
Not at all. Instead, we're seeing the median home price climb. It's actually reached an all-time high, $407,500.
Wow, it's a paradox for sure.
It is, but when you dig into the details, it does start to make sense.
Okay, so walk us through it.
Yeah.
What's driving this disconnect between sales and prices?
Well, one major factor is the volatility we've seen in mortgage rates. Remember last year when they peaked at 7.22%?
Yeah.
That is a huge hurdle for anyone who wants to buy,
Yeah.
especially when you combine it with those record high prices.
It's a double whammy. Makes affordability a real struggle for a lot of people.
It really does.
Now, we did see existing home sales go up a little bit in December 2024, a 2.2% rise to an annual rate of 4.24 million. Is this a sign that things are turning around, or is it just a blip?
It's tempting to think it's the start of a recovery, but we need to be careful. I mean, 1 month doesn't necessarily change the overall trend, and the trend has been downward.
So a healthy dose of skepticism is warranted.
Yeah, because so.
And to add to the uncertainty, the forecast for mortgage rates, well, it's not exactly encouraging. They're expected to stay above 6% all the way through 2026.
That's right. And that's where the comparison to the 1980s comes in. Back then, we also had high mortgage rates, but home prices were a lot lower.
Right.
This makes the current situation really tough on buyers. Imagine trying to buy a house at today's prices, but with interest rates like they had in the 80s.
Completely different ballgame.
Yeah, it is.
And it's not just the high mortgage rates we've got to worry about. On top of all that, we're seeing home insurance premiums going through the roof in some markets.
You're absolutely right. It's a perfect storm of rising costs, and it's really putting the squeeze on anyone who wants to buy a home or even just keep the one they have.
Let's talk about the supply side of things now. We've got this constant shortage of homes on the market, which only makes the affordability crisis worse. Even though we saw some inventory improvements in 2024, the gap between supply and demand is still huge.
It is. It's a classic example of too much demand and not enough supply.
Too few houses.
Exactly. Freddie Mac estimates we're short 3.7 million housing units.
That's a massive shortage.
It is.
What does that actually mean for buyers and sellers?
Well, for one thing, it's a major reason why prices are so high. When you have a lot of people who want to buy but not enough houses to go around, competition gets fierce and prices go up. Basic economics?
So it's a bidding war. Everyone wants a piece of the pie, and the pie's getting smaller.
Exactly. And this shortage is made even worse by what's called the lock-in effect. People who got those low mortgage rates a few years ago, they don't want to sell. They know if they do, they'll be hit with much higher rates when they buy their next home. So they're staying put. And that limits the supply even more.
They're stuck.
Yeah.
Basically.
Makes sense for them individually, but it doesn't help the overall situation.
That's right.
Now, some homeowners did sell in 2024, but it seems like it was usually because of life events. You know, marriage, divorce, job relocation, growing family.
That's right. It wasn't about taking advantage of a hot market. It was about necessity.
Not opportunity.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about the home builders. They could potentially fix this supply problem, right?
They could.
But they're facing their own problems.
They are. High borrowing costs last year made it really difficult for them to start new projects. So home building actually slowed down in 2024.
Not what we wanted to hear. So is there any good news? Well, some builders think that deregulation could really help boost housing supply in 2025. It's an idea that's been getting some attention.
Deregulation, huh? That sounds like it could be a big deal.
It could be.
What are the potential pros and cons?
Well, it's complicated. There are a lot of factors to consider.
Okay, we'll have to dive into that.
Definitely. Understanding these policies is really important for anyone trying to navigate this housing market.
Absolutely. It's a wild ride out there.
One of the big names behind this deregulation push is Scott Turner. You know, Trump's pick for HUD. He's been saying for a while that we need to cut regulations in the housing sector, make it easier and cheaper for builders to build new homes.
So the idea is if it's easier to build, then we'll have more homes. More supply means prices could come down, and that could make homes more affordable. Sounds good, but
Yeah, in theory.
are there any downsides?
Well, yeah, of course. There are always two sides to every story. Some people worry that if we get rid of too many regulations, we could end up with lower construction standards, homes that aren't as safe or well built. We don't want to solve one problem just to create a whole bunch bunch of new ones.
Yeah, that makes sense. We've seen it before, haven't we? Yeah. When there's not enough oversight, things can go wrong, especially with something as important as housing. It's a balancing act. We need more development, but we also need to make sure those new homes are safe and well built.
Exactly. And then there's the environmental impact. Some of these regulations are there to protect the environment, minimize the impact of development. If we loosen those regulations, well, there could be some unintended consequences, things we need to think about carefully.
So finding that middle ground, right?
Yeah.
Between progress and responsibility. We need more homes, but not if it means harming the environment.
Exactly. It's complicated. And to make things even more complicated, we have to consider how deregulation might interact with other policies, like the tariffs and increased deportations that were happening during the Trump administration.
Yeah, those seem to be working against deregulation, right? How could they counteract the benefits?
Well, everything's connected. Those tariffs on things like lumber and steel, well, those can make construction costs go up. And if there aren't enough construction workers because of deportations, well, then that slows things down even more. And labor costs go up.
So it's like a tangled web.
Yeah, it is. It shows how important it is to look at the big picture. When policymakers are making decisions, they have to think about how those decisions are going to affect other areas, not just housing.
Right. We've talked about buyers and builders and policies. But what does all of this mean for the average American? Is the American dream of owning a home, is that becoming out of reach?
It's a question a lot of people are asking themselves, especially now with high prices and high interest rates and not enough homes to go around. It's tough, especially for younger generations trying to buy their first home.
That's concerning. Homeownership, that's always been such a big part of the American dream, a way to build wealth and stability. What happens if that becomes impossible for most people?
The implications are huge. Both for society and for the economy. It could make wealth inequality even worse because the people who already own homes, they benefit from rising prices, but the people who can't afford to buy, they miss out. And that could lead to all sorts of problems: social unrest, dissatisfaction. People feel like they can't get ahead.
Yeah, it's a grim picture, isn't it?
Yeah.
Home ownership becomes something only the wealthy can afford. It just creates more division. So are there any solutions? Any reason for optimism?
Well, there's no easy fix, but there are things we can try. On the supply side, we need to figure out how to build more homes without sacrificing quality or sustainability. Maybe that means changing zoning laws, streamlining the permitting process, giving builders incentives to build more affordable housing.
So make it easier to build the right way.
Exactly. And on the demand side, we need to get creative with financing. Find new ways to help people, especially first-time buyers, afford a home. Maybe that means down payment assistance programs, or more flexible loan terms, or even rent-to-own models, so people can eventually become homeowners.
So we need to attack this from all angles, supply and demand. And it's going to take everyone working together. Policymakers, lenders, builders, communities, we all have a stake in this. We need a housing market that's fair and accessible and sustainable.
I agree. It has to be a team effort. We have to find solutions that work for everyone, not just a select few.
It's a big challenge, but we can't ignore it. The future of homeownership depends on it, and maybe even the American dream. So what do you think? Will only the rich be able to afford homes in the future? What solutions are most promising? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, it's a big question. A lot to think about there.
It is. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the U.S. housing market, I'm wondering, what do you think the future holds? What trends or developments are going to have the biggest impact on the market moving forward?
Well, I think interest rates are going to be key. If they stay high, it's going to be really hard for people to afford homes. And that could make homeownership even more out of reach.
It puts the Fed in a tough spot, doesn't it? They're trying to control inflation, but they also have to think about what their moves are going to do to the housing market.
Yeah, it's a balancing act. And then there's the supply issue. We need way more homes to be built if we're going to meet demand and hopefully bring prices down. But to do that, we have to figure out how to make it easier to build, maybe by changing zoning rules, or making the permitting process faster, or giving builders incentives to build more affordable housing.
So basically, we got to make it easier to build, but make sure it's being done responsibly.
Right. Quality and sustainability are important. And we shouldn't forget about innovation. We need to be thinking about new ways to finance homes, new ways to build them, maybe even new types of housing altogether. Things like modular construction or co-living arrangements. Or maybe we need to rethink the idea of the traditional single-family home.
It's kind of exciting to think about how innovation could really shake things up and create new ways for people to become homeowners.
Definitely. There's a lot of potential there. And along with all the practical stuff, we need to have a bigger conversation about what homeownership means in our society. Is it a right, a privilege, something in between? How do we balance what individuals want with the need for everyone to have access to housing?
Those are big questions.
They are.
But important ones. The future of housing isn't just about houses. It's about people, communities, and the American dream.
Well said. It really is about our values and aspirations as a society.
This has been a great conversation. We've covered a lot of ground today. Record low sales, record high prices, affordability, deregulation, innovation. It's a lot to take in.
It is. It's a complex issue,
Mhm.
and it's constantly changing.
But I think we've helped shed some light on what's going on.
I hope so.
And for our listeners, I think the main takeaway is this: stay informed, stay engaged. Whether you're thinking about buying a home or you already own one, or you just care about the future of housing, you need to understand these trends.
Absolutely. The more you know, the better prepared you'll be.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the U.S. housing market. I always enjoy these conversations with you.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
And to all our viewers out there, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more insightful deep dives into the issues that matter most. See you next time.